On this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast, our guest is Randy Berry of Advanced Quality Inspections, a home inspection company in Clayton, North Carolina. We talked to Randy about why he became a home inspector, the requirements that are needed to become a home inspector, what separates his home inspection company from the others, namely, he does same-day reports using a special software. We talked about the different types of home inspections that they do and the use of drone technology, which is often better than actually sending a human being up onto roofs to look at stuff. So I think you will find this interesting. We also talked to Randy Berry about being the president of the Clayton Rotary Club, which he will be until the end of June 2025. So listen in. I think you will find it interesting and fascinating and learn a little bit more about this small business that's doing a lot right here in Johnston County.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden, and on today's episode, we have Randy Berry of Advanced Quality Inspections in Clayton, North Carolina, and he's here to talk to us a little bit about his home inspection business, how it has grown rapidly in the area, how you get 965 five-star reviews, and common mistakes homeowners looking to buy a house make in working with their home inspector. I think you're going to find this interesting and fascinating, and I've been looking forward to this since he booked it because I bought enough properties, and sometimes I like the home inspectors, and I've sold enough properties to where sometimes I don't like home inspectors. So it depends on which side you're on. But before we get to that, I would like to invite you to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, X, Instagram, or any of the other social media channels of the Best Johnston County podcast. The Best Johnston County podcast comes out every single Monday and has now for over 18 months. So go back and listen to some of our previous episodes. We've had a lot of great guests over the years. We're well over 80 episodes now, and I think you will find it interesting and fascinating. And if you love Johnston County as much as I do and as much as Randy does, this is the podcast for you. Welcome, Randy.
Welcome, and thank you for having me on the show today. I certainly appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, no problem. So tell the people that are not familiar with your business who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so we are AQI, Advanced Quality Inspections. We perform residential and commercial inspections in Johnston County and surrounding areas. We are a multi-inspector, locally owned firm. We perform all inspection services. So not only home inspections, but your ancillary services such as radon testing, mold testing, indoor air quality testing, termite inspections, septic inspections. The list goes on and on. If you're buying a property and you think of any inspection you may need, I guarantee we take care of that for you.
Well, one of the ones you do that you don't really think about is you do drone inspections.
Yeah.
So talk about why you do drone inspections and why, I've been looking at buying and building a property in the mountains, and drone inspections are crucial because sometimes you can't get to the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. Even townhouses, stuff like that. Number one is safety. So the safety of our inspectors is very important. We definitely want to keep the industry safe. And a lot of inspectors are turning towards drone inspections. They're getting their Part 107 license so they can operate that. And it's much more efficient. You do have some old school folks that want you to get up there and walk on the roof, and they insist on seeing that. So we can still do it if we need to, but for efficiency purposes, it allows you to look at every square inch of that roof with a 4K camera up close. Or if you're walking on it, you might not want to reach all the way out on the edge to take a look at the drip edge. With a drone, you can fly right up to it, provide great pictures and videos for our clients. So definitely adds value.
Well, and that's a new technology for sure. So when and why did you get into home inspections?
So I was actually a kind of a quality nerd. So I grew up, welding and electrical trades, and then got into quality management and worked in the quality management field for several years. And we purchased the home that we live in now in March of 2020, and we had a home inspection completed. And I thought the process was a little broken. We used the home inspector that was recommended by the builder. And of course, we received this report that was pristine. I paid $500 for them to tell me nothing was wrong with this house. And as a quality inspector myself in a managed quality team, I realized quickly that there was opportunity for improvement and that somebody's not being quite honest with us. So that's when we set out to begin our own business, studied all that summer, and in October of 2020 is when we opened our doors as Advanced Quality Inspections.
All right. And I know there's at least one test you have to take to be a home inspector.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite as onerous as being a general contractor, but it's similar.
So
what is involved in becoming a home inspector?
With the general contract, it's all through Department of Insurance. So they hold the licensure board. So your home inspection licensure board is who holds the license. In North Carolina, you must be licensed. You can't just go out there and say you're a home inspector like you can in some states, which is a little scary. But you must first start with your education. So you got to have 120 hours of online training. Then you have to do 80 hours of field training in order to qualify for the state exam. Once you qualify for the exam, you go to Department of Insurance. Everybody in the whole state has to come right here to Raleigh to take it. And you go take the test, you pass it. Now you got to go get your general liability, your insurance, all that good stuff, licensed, bonded, and then you're a home inspector. Well, then you're barely legal home inspector. So this is Ben Grimico, who is the chief of InterNACHI, a big international inspectors education company. He says that people who are licensed are barely not criminal because that's the bare minimum. So our goal was to get that bare minimum that everyone must have and then set ourselves apart by getting extra education. So that's why we are InterNACHI. We have certified professional inspectors, and I'm actually a certified master inspector as well.
Okay. All right. And so you started the business in COVID.
We did. Yeah,
that's an interesting time to start a business.
Yes.
I was trying to keep my doors open. You decided to start a business.
Right. Yeah. One of the other things that kind of triggered us to start that was when we ordered the home inspection, we noticed there was a 2.5 week lead time on that. And then the appraisal was like 3 weeks out. And I was like, it should be a lot quicker. And then I started talking to other folks in the industry. And apparently that was holding up a lot of real estate deals, waiting on the appraiser, waiting on the inspector. I said, well, if we can jump in. The market's here. The opportunity for work is definitely here in this industry, and we all know what's happening in Johnston County with the growth.
So. Oh, there's no doubt about that. And so your inspections, I mean, you turn these around in 2 or 3 days.
Same day. Yeah.
Same day.
Yeah. So we'll come inspect your house, say at 1 p.m. and by 5 p.m. you've got a digital report in your hand that you can use for negotiations with the seller. So yeah, we do same day reporting.
So how are you able to do that?
Software. Yeah, it's all about the technology. So we utilize the best inspection software in the industry. It's called Spectora. It's no surprise to every other inspector out there. It is a surprise to some agents who have not received a report from that software system, but it's color-coded. We can add videos, annotated images. Everything is broken down into categories. There's a repair request builder you can generate from there. So a lot of good features that help save real estate agents time, which is most important for them and for us, because we want them to go get busy on that next buyer so that we have another inspection to do.
Right. So your business comes from referrals, I guess, largely. Is it from realtors? Is it from builders? Or where do you get your referrals from?
Yeah, so real estate agents make up a large chunk of our referrals that we receive. And once they give us one shot and we treat them right, then they just keep on coming back. So that's communication is the big thing during real estate transaction. They've got a lot of different balls they're trying to juggle. So if we can be as upfront and helpful to them, kind of take some stuff off their plate, then they appreciate that and reward us by contacting their next client and letting them know about us as well. Now, the real estate agent also on the seller side, some folks are not aware that, we do pre-listing inspections. So you mentioned how, the sellers usually don't like home inspectors. Well, the seller can like a home inspector if you get your home inspection done before you list your house. So the big benefit of a pre-listing inspection is that you get a list of things that a buyer's inspector is going to find, because we're all trained the same. We all should have about the same base knowledge. And so during that short due diligence period after you're under contract, you're not, with your back against the wall trying to hustle and get a plumber to come out and replace the water heater, because now he's going to charge you premium rates. So if you get everything inspected and repaired before you list it, you've got the upper hand and can save money.
And I actually did that. I mean, I had a house out here in the Cleveland community, the first house I ever bought, and it was on a hill. So the water ran under it. So it was wet, not standing water, but I think it can be 17, 18% moisture you're checking for or something. It's somewhere in there. And I wasn't sure. And of course, people come around and want to sell me $20,000 vapor system underneath it, but I wasn't sure how wet it was. Would it pass? So I actually did get a home inspector who happened to be a neighbor to come over and sort of pre-inspect that basement and tell me whether it was going to pass or not. And it was kind of on the edge. And so I ended up putting in a French drain across the entire front of the house. I had a contractor come in, and so that was diverting a lot of the water, and then it was fine. But if I'd have tried to do that while I was in due diligence, to find somebody to come in, put the French drain, it wouldn't have worked. So I think that's important. I think people need to realize that if you're thinking about selling your house and your house has got a few years on it, you really should call somebody and get one of those pre-inspections, because then that lets you fix it on your timeline, not somebody else's.
Spot on. Yes, sir.
So what percentage of y'all's inspections are pre-inspections? Like where somebody's calling saying, I just want to know what I'm facing.
Yeah, very small. A lot of times folks are maybe not wanting to spend the money or something like that. So we try and market it as much as possible. And when you do that pre-inspection, now you have a report that is your property, and you can then sell that to any potential buyer. So say you've got a showing day and 10 folks come in, you can put a sign out that says, hey, scan this code and people pay you $50 to view your report. And maybe now they don't have to get an inspection kind of deal. So there's potential for that as well. You can recoup some of that cost.
I didn't know that.
But it is a very small percentage of our inspections.
I got you.
Because a larger percentage of our inspections is new construction right now around the area.
Well, that would make sense. Right. Well, so with new construction, the Mungos and the sort of the track builders are building the vast majority of the houses, and they are, for the most part, going to try to hit the minimums of the county building code. Are you familiar with the county building codes? And do you know where these track builders like to try to cut corners and maybe you can catch them?
Yeah, there are some. As far as the codes, we are not code inspectors, but we do have good resources and friends in low places in our back pocket. So I happen to know some folks that can always verify things for us. Shout out to Robert Kleinbell. And so as far as cutting corners, they'll do it until we get back for the third or fourth home in that subdivision. And then we actually kind of help their process, because if we're able to come in and identify an issue and, they're an ethical builder, they can do the correct approach and maybe fix it. So that would save them time down the road as well. Because if a code inspector comes in and busts them, they'll write it up. They will fail the house and put a little note in their permit box and then leave. And then now the builder's got to pay for them to come back so that they can pass their plumbing rough-in or whatever stage they're trying to get past. So if we can start identifying those issues for them and they take it as, quality control and improve their building processes, then we can help the builders as well. So A lot of builders do appreciate us coming out there. It's almost a pre-inspection for them before the code guy comes.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I really thought about it that way.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So what are the most common problems in the new construction, particularly track building that we have out here, that you see most commonly?
Well, the most common thing is that humans build it. So no matter what, no matter who the builder is, something can be and usually is wrong. We make mistakes. We're just there to give an extra set of eyes. We're not there to blow up the deal or make anybody upset. We're just there to, provide our expertise from our experiences. Some common things that you're going to find are really simple cosmetic stuff. We do write up, nail pops and corner cracks and things like this. You have broken glass in homes. One of the bigger ones that might kind of hold things up is going to be any damage to your engineered trusses. So up in the attic area, if any of those trusses, any of the wooden members are cracked or split, or the mending plates that hold it together are not in place, and that turns into something major, because they have to have a structural engineer evaluate that and then provide them with a letter of repair, and then they have to have that repair done. So that's one of the most important things that we do find is, and that's just based on the building process.
Okay.
If you've ever seen them drop off a big old stack of trusses that are on the back of a flatbed semi, they just sling them off in the mud and then hook a crane around them and they fling them around and things happen.
Right.
So that's one area that we really focus on as inspectors to make sure all that's good, because we don't want our buyers to move in 5 years down the road. They go to sell their house, they bring in another inspector and then see that and say, oh, well, Randy with AQI didn't tell us about that cracked truss. So we want to give them as much information as possible.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. So what about the sidings? We have hardy plank now. We got the stucco stuff. What has been your experience with the different types of sidings? What are the problems with some of these sidings that you've seen? And what suggestions would you have depending on what kind of siding of a house somebody's buying?
Yeah, so we see a lot of vinyl. Vinyl is kind of the inexpensive. I'm not going to say it's less maintenance than anything else. So that's kind of what we see a lot of. You'll see it installed too tight where it can't expand and contract, so it'll start to warp. You see, reflections from adjacent windows can melt the siding, all types of interesting things. The premier, what everybody really wants is their fiber cement, your hardy board and stuff like that. That's what we all would want to have on our home if we could. They've changed throughout the years their installation requirements, from the manufacturer. So we kind of have to keep up with manufacturers' requirements on how they install the material. And, if it's an 18-year-old house with fiber cement siding, then you're going to see caulked seams on it, where the new ones, they don't caulk the seams, they put flashing behind it. So there's a lot of little nuances that come into it. But if I had my choice, I would swap out my vinyl for hardy board right now.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. And I was fortunate that the house I live in now is a brick house, so
Okay.
I don't have to worry too much about that. But I live out here. You live out here. Everybody's got a story about the track builders and some version of something's happened to the siding. So the hardy plank is not doing what it's supposed to do. I mean, that kind of stuff. So I was just curious if there was, but as a general rule, all these houses around here are well built and you don't find major problems, right?
Yeah, in general, it really comes down to the project management at the sites. Drive in. Here's my advice to people, because we get asked every day, oh, what do you think about this builder or this builder? I said, all the builders are essentially the same because they're using the same subcontractors. The same crew that did your framing on your house was probably working for a different company last month, and they'll be at a different company next month because they'll get paid 10 cents more per hour, so it all depends on the construction manager and how well they're managing the project. When you drive into a subdivision, if you see trash everywhere and you see it just looks like a messy job site, we generally know, all right, we're going to find some stuff wrong in this house. But if you go in and they're maintaining everything and it looks clean, then somebody's keeping up with everybody and you generally have a better home. So that's kind of my advice when answering that question in short, is when you go into a subdivision, is it clean or does it look like a war zone?
Okay. I mean, that's a thought. I mean, I've never really thought about that, but I'll
Mhm.
have to, and believe me, there's tons of construction subdivisions here in Johnston County.
Mhm.
I know that you're big with veterans and you give discounts to veterans, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are locally owned, and a majority of our inspectors that we employ are veterans. So we have 4 veterans that work for us. We are proud patriots. We do offer a 10% military discount for veterans. We also offer a 5% discount for first responders. And then we honor our return clients with a little discount as well.
Okay, cool. And I know one of the things you do, and I did this, and I think this is important, is you do 11-month inspections. Talk about why that is so important and why people should do it. It is crucial, in my opinion, that everybody should get 11-month inspection.
Absolutely. So we call them our 11-month warranty inspection, because at the 12-month or the 12th month, typically your builder's warranty will expire. So that gives you a full 30 days for us to come in. We'll do the inspection, provide you with a report. You can summarize anything or fill out any paperwork that you need to on the builder's end and have them come out and do a walkthrough and show them anything that may be wrong with the home. It's so important because a home's going to settle. When you buy a brand new home, you think you see everything when you first walk in after it's, the punch list is complete and the blue tape's all fancied up. Then you're like, all right, this is going to last forever. Well, within that first year, a lot of things move and creak and expand and contract. So you're going to have a lot of little nail pops and cracks. And sometimes people think it's major structural items, but it's usually not. So we're able to kind of ease their mind about that, but we're also able to help them formalize that in our report that they present straight to the builder. They come out, get the things fixed, and then they can move on to their 5 and 10 year for their structural warranties.
Well, and that's exactly what I did. And I'd had a house that settled, and there were some cracks, nothing major, but it had settled a little bit. And the builder I used, Diamond Contracting, came back and they fixed it. And I really appreciate that, because not all builders are as responsive as other builders.
That's right.
I'm just being honest. So anyway, not as responsive as other builders. I see you were in a Rotary pen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you in the Rotary?
I'm actually the president of the Clayton Rotary Club.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about Rotary. I've got the 4-way test hanging in my office.
Oh, you do?
My grandfather, I'm not in Rotary. My grandfather gave me a picture frame with the 4-way test in it when I was in college.
Oh, wow.
And I have kept it, and I keep it in my office, because I always want to ask people, particularly in the divorce law business, is it the truth?
Well, yeah. Is it fair to all concerned?
Right. So anyway, so talk a little bit about Rotary.
Yeah. So I'm the president. We're actually, the Rotary year ends at the end of July, or at the end of June. So I'm in my last quarter of my presidency. Lynn Roman, a real estate agent here locally, she's our president-elect, who will be taking over the middle of this summer. But we've got a really strong club. We just celebrated, literally last week, the 100th anniversary of our club. So I had a big old party over at the farm. And we also set a goal by our 100th birthday of the club to have over 100 members. So we have 104 members in our club right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, we've been growing. We still meet at Rainbow Lanes.
Oh, that's
You can
awesome.
come on down for some free breakfast on Thursday mornings.
Yeah,
Be done at 8 o'clock and you continue about your day.
Right, because y'all meet at like 7 a.m., right?
Yeah. It's good networking.
Yeah,
and and you'd be surprised, you walk in Rainbow Lanes and there's 60, 75 people in there. You're like, wow, everybody is awake.
Man, that's early. I know. I mean, there used to be 2 Rotary clubs in Clayton.
There was.
There was a midday,
Mhm.
and then there was an evening. They didn't have a breakfast one. So maybe, which one would yours go from midday to the breakfast, or were you the evening when they went to the breakfast?
So it used to be evening, and my sponsor, Lee Hudson,
who just passed away,
yeah,
great man.
Yeah, absolutely. He was my sponsor, and he's the one that came up with the bright idea to do the morning thing, because they were losing interest, and as they were trying to get a younger club, and it was tough for them to get a younger club and remain in the evenings, because now sports were starting, soccer, all that stuff back in the 80s was starting to really kick off, and families are just so busy. So that's when they came up with the morning deal, and they had midday club is no longer around. They had dissolved, so we're standing strong. Now we also have the Cleveland,
right? The Cleveland Rotary Club.
Mhm.
I don't know when it meets. I know it meets at the Cleveland Draft House, or at least it did.
Yep, they do. So I was actually hanging out with Russell Camper. He's their president over there. We were just in Dominican Republic last week.
Oh,
so
man,
we were
okay.
we were there for a week building houses in Los Cocos, right outside of Santiago.
Well, he's a builder.
Yeah,
I mean, Russell Camper's a very good builder.
Yes.
So that's
so
awesome.
He was out there as a builder, and I was at another site as the inspector. So that everybody told me I had to have blinders on the whole week, which is a good thing I did, because their construction's a little different.
Their construction's a little different than American construction. There's no doubt about that. Well, that's great. I actually spoke to the Clayton Rotary Club a few years ago when it was in the evening. I was invited by Ernest Blackley, who passed away a couple of years ago, to come and speak, and I had a really good time. And I'll always remember that. It's been a while, but it was a good time, and I really enjoyed it, and I appreciated him doing it. And I try to participate in the Rotary stuff. I just got some of the Flags for Heroes.
I just saw your name on there. That's
I just got a few of those. By the time this episode runs, the Flags for Heroes will probably be over, but Flags for Heroes usually runs Memorial Day to about July 4th. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And
so it's coming up.
Yeah, and so they put out flags for out there next to the hospital in Clayton, and I think that's great. But I learned just the other night that it is you can honor people that are alive, because I thought it was only for people that had passed away.
So are you the one that asked Stuart that question?
I did.
Okay, Stuart said, you'll never be. Okay, that was you. How funny. What a small world.
Right. I was with Stuart, and I was like, I didn't know you could do people that are alive. And he was like, oh, yeah. So anyway,
that's funny.
You don't have to be dead to have a flag honoring you at the Flags for Heroes that Clayton Rotary Club with the Cleveland Rotary Club and a couple other Rotary clubs do. And I think that's beautiful. I encourage everybody to go out there, and I think it's neat. I think it's great that y'all do that. And I mean, it's moving. I don't know how many. It was 150, 200 flags.
1,500.
1,500 flags. Yeah, it's a lot.
Started the Lee Hudson and at the time Michael Sims was president, and they kind of were presented with this project and thought about it, and they were shooting for 200. That was their goal. And Michael Sims said, I don't know if we can get 200 people to do this. Well, next thing you know, they turn around and they've got 500 flags out there, and they said, wow, we can really make this grow. And this was right during COVID when we started doing it here. And we said, this is a great way to get people back out, engaged, get the community back together. I think it was something really heartfelt that brought the community back together during a really tough time for a lot of folks. And it just kept growing, and it's our biggest fundraiser throughout the year. All of our proceeds that we use for that goes to, stop soldier suicide, the schools for all of our scholarships that we give, other projects that we do in the community as well. So that's our biggest fundraiser for that.
Well, that's awesome. So how can people reach out to you at AQI?
Yeah, so they can either, most importantly, visit our website at aqinspect.com. You can read the bios about all of our amazing inspectors that we employ. They are all our W-2 employees. We don't contract anyone out. And you can call 919-607-0288. Answer the phone as much as I can. That's the beautiful and downside of being a small business owner.
That's true. That's true. Yep. I understand that. And the last question we ask everybody on this podcast, what do you love most about Johnston County?
Well, you kind of got to take it back to the Rotary Club again. I'm just so involved with it. The community is amazing. Once you see the folks and we love supporting local small businesses. Lee Hudson had brought me into the Rotary Club and introduced me to a lot of local folks. And so, yeah, it's a really good feel here. We moved here from Colorado and don't plan on going back because I can't stand shoveling snow.
I can understand that. You're not the first person to move to Johnston County because of the weather, that's for sure. So anyway, we'd like to thank Randy from AQI for coming and being on our podcast here today. If you learn anything from this podcast, give us a 5-star review down below. Give comments. We'll make sure that he gets those. Reach out to him and his team if you need any home inspections or any of the other services he talked about offering today. Also, as we mentioned earlier, please like, follow, subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it so you'll be aware of future episodes of Best Johnston County Podcast. Best Johnston County Podcast comes out every single Monday. And if you'd also do us a favor and share it in your Instagram stories and tag us at the Best of Johnston County, we would much appreciate you doing that for us. Till next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.